Okay guys, I really wasn't expecting to make another video about Lightyear so soon after the release of my quick movie review, but I really got to talk about some of the issues of this movie and what I think it could have been. So, I did mention that seeing the trailers, I wasn't very excited for this movie because it just didn't seem like the Buzz Lightyear movie that I wanted it to be. But you know, I gotta say, I was very disappointed in this movie. Like, you know, some trailers, you know, if they get you down, sometimes the movie is better than what the trailers are leading you to believe. But really, I was just disappointed by what this movie was, and I really wish that this movie, like, could have been a lot different. So I'm going to talk about what Lightyear could have been, and I'm going to talk about the reasons why I personally didn't like it, and why I think that all the choices that Pixar made with this movie led to its downfall. So this is going to contain spoilers, so if you have not seen Lightyear, then click off this video, go see it in theaters, and come back to this video. But if you don't care about spoilers, then stick around. So, major spoilers for Lightyear. And I'm going to have to spoil it because there's a lot of shit that happens in this movie that is very confusing, very stupid, and just overall, it really let the film down. So, number one is the look of it and the tone of the movie. Now, if you've seen the Buzz Lightyear cartoon, Buzz Lightyear Star Command, then you know that it's a lot more zany and it's a lot more reminiscent of what Buzz Lightyear's universe was described in Toy Story. This movie doesn't resemble any of that. It's very dark, and I think Pixar is trying to go for a more realistic sci-fi experience, but in doing so, they really created a very boring and very dull world, and it's just not fun to be in. It doesn't have the, like, zaniness and the, like, cartooniness of the Buzz Lightyear cartoon or the character. It doesn't resemble Buzz Lightyear's universe in the slightest, because he describes it to be fun and creative and just, like, very exciting. And this world was not exciting. It was very boring. It was very, like, glum, and it was very gloomy is actually a better description of it. This world is just very bland and just overall very depressing to be in. And I didn't mention this in my review, but the suits that the characters wear, the Space Ranger suits, are shit. Like, really, they do not look anything like the suits in the Toy Story movies. Now, they do fix this. I will say this, again, major spoilers. If you don't want to know what happens at the end of Lightyear, then click off this video. But they do eventually get the iconic Space Ranger suits. And they have the spaceship that you see in the first Toy Story and Buzz is introduced. They actually tie that into the first Toy Story. So, in a way, it's kind of like tied to the canon of Toy Story. In a sense. Like, what happens in the movie basically happened to Buzz Lightyear in his mind. And I thought that was pretty cool. That, like, legit is one of the saving graces of this movie, but it's not enough to make this a good movie. So, let's get to the other issues. Issue number 2, everything to do with Zurg. Like, and this is like the biggest problem for me with this film. So, and this is going to contain major spoilers, so again, if you have not seen Lightyear, then don't watch this video, go see it. If you don't care, then watch it anyway. The reveal of Zurg is fucking stupid. Seriously. So, Zurg is revealed to be Buzz Lightyear. Yeah, Buzz Lightyear. They took a page from Flash Season 3 and revealed it to be the main character, but an evil version. And it doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, this, all of the things needed for this to happen don't exist. This cannot happen. So, if you don't know already, like, there have been already some spoilers for this movie. Apparently, Buzz time travels, and he's, like, gone for, like, 63 years. I think that's in some trailers. But, he goes to the future, and there's a future where Zurg has already taken over the planet. And Zurg, like, eventually finds Buzz and, like, captures him. And he reveals to him that it's him. and that he was like the people that he Star Command, they saw him as a traitor because he went against their back. Like, they were planning to originally get off the planet, and I gotta mention this, Buzz actually marooned everyone on that planet. So his whole mission throughout the movie is to find a way to make an energy source that would get him off the planet and back to their own planet. But the commander decides to stay there because they've waited too long. And Buzz still wants to try and get them back home. So he takes a spaceship without their permission, and he basically becomes a fugitive. And that Buzz apparently like comes back to the energy source, but instead of being praised as a hero, he's seen as a villain. And so he basically goes on the rogue to become Zurg. And I'm like, this makes no fucking sense. It's completely stupid, unoriginal, and reeks of lazy writing. Seriously, you seriously used the future self cliche. You're fucking Pixar. You're better than that. Don't go the same route that you were going with Incredibles 2 and add things to the villain that make no fucking sense whatsoever. If you don't know, like, Incredibles 2 has a very stupid villain called Screenslaver, and her motives make no sense whatsoever, and the circumstances make no sense whatsoever. But I'll talk about that for another day. So, anyways, guys, long story short, the villain sucks in this movie, and everything surrounding the villain in this movie, it made no sense, and it should not have even happened. And number 3, they totally screwed up the continuity of Toy Story. So, what do I mean by that? Well, it's established that Buzz Lightyear, in his adventures, has to stop Zurg from, like, unleashing weapons on the universe, and he's basically, like, the protector of the universe. So, basically, Zurg is a, like, ongoing threat. He's not just a one-time villain. He's the main villain of Buzz Lightyear, his series. But in this movie, Zurg dies. Yeah, Zurg dies. And I'm all like, what the fuck? That's a stupid decision. You could have had him, like, maybe if they did a sequel down the line, they could have had him come back, like, with his Zurg army as seen in the cartoons. And, you know, they, like, brought back everything else from the Toy Story movies at the end. So why couldn't they have done the same with Zurg? I mean, and by the way, besides Zurg just being a completely terrible villain in this movie, Zurg was completely underused. Like, he doesn't get a lot of screen time in this movie, so they could have given him a lot more development and more screen time in the sequel if they ever make one. I don't know if this movie is going to be successful enough to have a sequel because it's not doing very well at the box office right now, even though it's a Pixar movie. And it's a movie based on Buzz Lightyear. Kind of goes to show that how much this movie was a disappointment. I mean, this movie itself was not like a Buzz Lightyear film, but you could have at least used this movie as a foundation to make a Buzz Lightyear movie. Like I said, this doesn't feel like Buzz Lightyear. It feels like Halo. It feels like a completely separate universe from Toy Story. You could have, like, built all the characters up to be who they were in the movies, but no. You just had to go and kill off Zurg, and you had to screw up everything in the continuity of Toy Story. This movie might as well not be considered canon. Now, guys, I will say this. There are some good things in this movie. Like, there are some funny jokes, and it does have heart. Like, I actually felt something in a few scenes. And the animation, again, is phenomenal because it's Pixar. But this film really lacked the creativity and the drive of other Pixar movies. What I think Lightyear really needed was to not be realistic in any way. Like, tone down all of the depressing atmosphere, tone down all of the realistic looking vehicles and suits, and just go all out with the zaniness of Buzz Lightyear. Because, you know, the cartoon, it wasn't the greatest cartoon ever, but at least it understood what Buzz Lightyear was and the world that he lived in. I would much rather watch the Buzz Lightyear movie that came out in 2000 than this movie, because at least it's not dull to look at. So what I would do is completely scrap the plot about Buzz screwing up and him having to find a way to get off the planet. Why not instead have the plot be his mission from Toy Story to stop a weapon that Zurg has developed to destroy the universe? I was thinking maybe Buzz starts off as maybe a trainee. He's a little bit of a screw-up, and he wants to prove himself as a space ranger. And he's given this mission to go find Zurg and defeat his weapon and save the universe. So maybe he goes to the planet like he does in Toy Story 2, Planet Zurg, and he confronts Zurg there. And maybe have Buzz fail and Zurg is teleported straight to his weapon, which is at his spaceport. So he, after having like a sad moment where he thinks that he completely failed the mission, he decides to pick himself back up and goes to destroy the weapon once and for all. And we get like a final battle between him and Zurg that, and I'll be honest, the fight scene between him and Zurg was actually incredibly cool to watch. Like, the final battle scene was actually legit a great climax. Way better than the climax in the Bob's Burgers movie. But we need to have like more like, again, zaniness. A lot of off the wall like energy. It doesn't need to be tied down to this realistic look that Lightyear is going for. It needs to be like, it needs to reach beyond the limits of realism. It needs to be more cartoony. It needs to be more like out there. But again, this movie wasn't. It wasn't like Buzz Lightyear at all. It was like Halo. It was like every sci-fi movie ever. And I get that was the point. This is the movie that the toy is based off of, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't try to at least, you know, put some energy in there. I really wanted to see a theatrical version of the world and characters from the Buzz Lightyear cartoon. That's what I expected to see when they announced this Lightyear movie back in, like, I think it was like 2020, I think. I really wanted that to be this movie because I've been waiting for a movie like that for years, but no. They didn't do that. I was disappointed. It really goes to show how much of a letdown this movie is. This was Pixar's first theatrical film in a long time. Ever since Onward, Pixar has been stripped of theaters, and this was their comeback. This was supposed to bring Pixar back to the animation field in the theatrical level. But instead, this movie dropped the ball so much, and it didn't deliver anything memorable. It didn't deliver anything creative. It left us all empty with a dull, depressing feeling in our guts. We wanted this movie so badly to be good. All of the trailers, they looked dull to me, and the trailers did not disappoint. It is as dull, boring, and depressing as the trailers made it out to be. Now, in all of my bashing of this movie, I'm not saying that this is the worst animated movie that I've ever seen. Food fight. But it is definitely one of the most disappointing animated movies I've ever seen. And I'm probably never going to watch it again. I mean, I might check it out maybe in the near future once or twice, just to see if it gets any better. But for right now, this is something that could have been a lot more. This could have been a very zany and fun sci-fi space adventure. But instead, it's a dull, boring, let's get off this planet type story. That's all it is. And that's not exciting to me. Like, if you're gonna do a space movie and a sci-fi movie, then you should get to go to multiple locations and not be stuck on a boring, dull planet that doesn't really have any kind of unique space creatures or settings. Like, literally, there's just like a swamp, there's desert, there's like spider creatures. It's basically like Halo. It's like there's no variety in the locations. It all takes place on this dull, boring planet and has all these dull, boring ships, dull, boring vehicles, dull, boring suits, and just dull, boring characters. All except for Buzz. Buzz is always likable, but honestly, he's too much of a Debbie Downer. Like, all of the time, he's depressed about how he screwed up. I get it, he screwed up. But, like, he's, like, always talking about how much he let people down. Like, you know, basically bringing down the mood. And I'm all like, I get it, dude. You screwed up. You don't need to consistently remind us, oh, this is my fault, and there's no way I can make this better. Stop that, dude. That makes everything depressing. When your main character doesn't believe in himself, how is the audience supposed to get invested in his adventures? Before I go, I have another thing that I was very disappointed by. Not at all did they tie this into Toy Story in terms of the characters. Like, I did mention that they do tie the ending into the first Toy Story. I mean, I'm not saying that Buzz Lightyear isn't like himself. Like, this is the Buzz Lightyear character. Like, all of his characteristics and, you know, like, the depths of the character are still there. But what I mean is, like, this movie doesn't tie itself back to Toy Story, other than the fact that they have an opening crawl that states that this is the movie that is Andy's favorite movie, and this is the movie that Buzz Lightyear was based on. But Andy never shows up in this movie. There's not a post-credit scene or any kind of small clip where you see Andy watching this movie in theaters, or any of the Toy Story gang. Like, I thought that they would at least, like, slip in Andy at least somewhere, but they don't. You don't see Andy in this movie, and you don't see Woody, the real Buzz, or any of the other toys. Jesse, none of them. It doesn't do anything to really tie itself or connect itself to Toy Story, other than, like, lines, the ending, and Buzz Lightyear himself. And I thought that's what a prequel was supposed to do, like, tie itself into the main story somehow, you know, like Star Wars or The Hobbit, or like some others, Monsters University, another Pixar prequel. That's what that was its main priority, was to tie itself into the main story. I guess not for this movie. So in conclusion, Lightyear is a very disappointing mess that could have been a lot more just like the bad guys, but sadly, it really didn't live up to the hype. It really needed to not be so realistic and grounded in dull, and it really just needed to go all out for the zaniness. I gotta be honest, guys. I don't think that this movie is okay. Like, I mean, it is okay. It's a okay movie in itself. Like, you can watch this and not be, like, you know, tortured by it. But it's really nothing of a movie. It's a very nothing movie. Like, nothing really happens in it. It's a very confusing mess that I know that I'm going to forget about in a few days. It's going to be one of those movies that is going to be forgotten by a lot of people, and it's definitely not going to be anywhere near the studio's greatest films like Monsters, Inc. or the Toy Story movies again. So, anyways, guys, that's my video on Lightyear. I had a lot of thoughts about it coming out of it. I just wanted to get them out. So, let me know what you thought of Lightyear. And if you have any movies for me to review, leave it in the comment section. So what did you think of Lightyear? Do you disagree with me or do you agree with me? Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys later.